mic is live. I'm here again, ladies and gentlemen. It's your man, Leroy Adams. We're not going to let no traditional stuff your face day interrupt our broadcast. We're coming to you live from the House of Hits. This is where I make all my music and production, and I'm coming to you live once again on this, what they call the Thanksgiving weekend. And we're going to be talking to you about that. Today's topic matter is going to be tradition versus truth. Tradition versus truth. I see my brother Timothy Oglesby has entered the chat room. How you doing, Tim? Good to see you, my brother. We have the great one in the background bringing up the music. The great, beautiful Aretha Franklin. Once again, I ask you if the music is too loud, let me know so that I could temper it with my voice, because we don't want it to be competing. But we got Aretha Franklin taking advantage of the mic. She heard the mic was live and she came over. She came by today and now she's taking advantage of the mic being live. We got about 2 minutes to go before I get into it. I hope you guys have had a good weekend. I hope you enjoyed your family and friends. It's important that we do that from time to time. You know, we get wrapped up in our business and sometimes we forget to call up mom or dad. Dad's no longer with us. Rest in peace. May he rest in peace. Left us about 2 years ago, April of 2016. But you know, sometimes you forget. Call your brothers, your siblings, your sisters, and nephews and nieces and grandchildren, you know, so it's good to have these family days where you can get together and rehash old beefs and talk about new dreams. So, but this is our holiday edition of the Mic is Live. We got a couple more minutes. Like I said, we're going to give people a couple more minutes to get out of here. Let me check my time here. Should be close to that time. Alright, it's 2:01. So I'm going to get into it. And whoever joins me. I know a lot of people are still stuffing their face from the leftovers. So my audience might be kind of small today. But anyways, you guys know the drill. This is The Mic is Live. I'm your host, Leroy Adams. Trying to keep it going for us, giving you information and news concerning us, about us. You know, this is something that I started when I was in college. I had a little talk show in college, Channel Y at York College, and things have been happening in the news and in our community, so I figured, you know, it's time for me to come back out other than producing music. So we're trying to build this platform so we can really get away from Facebook, because Facebook has been acting kind of janky lately ever since they came out with that edict from the FBI talking about black identity extremists. And we all know what that's code word for. But anyway, we want to get off this platform and we want to get our radio station going. So again, we're not asking for any donations. We don't want your money. But we do need you to, once we reproduce this and put it out through the week, you'll see it posted on our Facebook page and other mediums. Please go over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button so that we can build our audience up and let our sponsors know that we have a nice sized audience, because that's how we want to fund the radio station. We don't want any donations or anything from listeners. We want it sponsored by black products for us. You know, I can see now this signal is acting all janky. That's why, again, we want to get away from Facebook. I keep getting these messages, Facebook is not responding. I'm sure you're not. Anytime you talk about anything positive for black people, it's hard to get anything to respond. You know, it came out a couple of weeks ago about WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, and Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. What it's really about, it's really a state-run medium You know, CIA's been monitoring Facebook for years. So all you guys out there, you know, posting your illegal guns and your drugs and all that nonsense, just know that you're just setting yourself up for future prosecution. You know, but you know, that being said, we want to get away from this platform altogether and develop our radio station. We're going to come with a live stream radio station, and if we can get the sponsorship up by the summertime, we want to be hitting you up with 24-hour programming, music programs, talk shows, all kinds of stuff. We want to be coming at you 24 hours on that tip. Once again, the mic is live, ladies and gentlemen. We got Aretha Franklin setting the mood with some of her greatest hits. We're going to again be talking about tradition versus truth. Tradition versus truth. All right, before we get into that, you know, we're not going to stay too long today because, like I said, I know people want to get back to the leftovers. We got that sweet potato pie still sitting on the table you want to get back to. But, you know, we're going to be kind of brief and just let you know where we at with this thing. And hopefully you guys will get some insight and some thought-provocative information that you can share with your family and or take for your own edification. Anyway, in the news, we understand that there was an attack on a mosque in Egypt. There was a bombing in Egypt. More than 300 people were killed or injured. They're still waiting to see who's claiming responsibility for it. It's a shame when people go to pray and they're being attacked and killed. Remember about 2 or 3 weeks ago, some nutcase went to a church and shot up another church in Texas. Same thing here. Somebody went in and bombed this mosque in Egypt, and I understand that over 300 people have been killed or critically injured. 50 or 57 or 59 of them were children. You know, so that just lets you know where we at with this thing, how far people are willing to go to get their little point across. You know, anytime, you know, I can understand you going in on adults or whatever, you know, even though I don't understand, but when you start putting children in the mix and you start hurting children just to make a political point or what you feel is a spiritual point, there's something wrong with you. You know, you need to re-examine, you know, your thought processes. You know, so we want to send a shout out to the people of Egypt, to all the families that were affected in that horrific attack. I understand the orange one took it upon himself to tweet and make it a political point for his stupid wall and his hate speech and his prejudiced racist speech. But you know, any sane person of sound mind knows that it's at certain points, man. It's not about your political affiliation. It's not about the flag you salute to, and you know, it's just about being human. It's about humanity. You know, so we want to send a shout out to the people that were affected by that horrific attack, and you know, our thoughts are with you and their families. Also in the news, speaking of the orange one, I understand his right-hand man, Michael Flynn, is supposed to be going up and speaking to the House on Foreign Affairs. He's been called up, and I also understand that Mueller is also questioning him. So a lot of the people in the know are wondering if he's beginning to flip. And he's going to flip on the dime, you know, and give up some big names. They were talking to one of the prosecutors that worked with Mueller, and he said that he worked with him in the past. Anytime he talks with an individual on that level, and he's going to make a deal with them, it's because he's going after some big fish. You know, it would make my year if John Jr. But we'll see what's going to happen with that. You know, we see all this rhetoric that's going on. Anytime this man starts tweeting and he gets into it with some people, you know, like he's gotten into it with Mr. Ball. You know, it's because he's trying to distract from something. You know, he went in on LeVar Ball about rescuing his son from China and talking about how they should have thanked him and all that. And the young men did thank him, you know, but, you know, Mr. Ball brought up a very good point. I was watching him do an interview the other day, and he was like, well, that's what Trump says. You know, he was like, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I just basically did what I had to do for my son. You know, let him deal with what he's got to deal with. Don't look for me to be saying thank you. You know, and really, if you do something for somebody, you don't do it because you want them to thank you. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And this man has continuously said things just off the cuff, and we find out later that it's not true. So for all we know, he didn't have nothing to do with those boys being released, even though the boys did thank him. You know, but who's to say that? Because Mr. Ball's point of view was, he had boots on the ground. He had people over there working to secure the release of his sons. And don't get me mistaken on this. You know, I have no sympathy for those young men because they went over there and did something they knew they weren't supposed to do. So whatever the outcome was on them. But my thing is the way the Orange One blew this thing up, you know, and attacking Mr. Ball and making a big deal out of it. You know, you got to look at what's going on the periphery of what he has everybody focusing on. You know, everybody's focusing on this whole thing with him and Mr. Ball and missing the point that Robert Mueller is closing in on him and his White House, his son, and his son-in-law. So let's not get caught up in the tactics of distraction that this man is famous for. Because this week is Mr. Ball. Next week he'll be talking about some young lady that didn't stand for the flag because she's wearing braids in her high school or something, just to get us thinking negatively or thinking in reverse in terms of what we should be thinking about. And that's him being indicted. That's his son-in-law being indicted, and his son being indicted, and the whole clan going to jail. And deporting that old puppet wife of his, one that looks like a Thunderbird, deporting her back to Russia, because everybody in their right mind know that she ain't nothing but a control agent for Russia, controlling him. You know, deport her back persona non grata as an enemy agent of the state. You know, that's the focus, and that's what everybody needs to be focusing on. Don't get distracted, you know, about all this other stuff that he's talking about, because it has nothing to do with the reality that we're all living. Okay, also in the news, I don't know if you guys remember this story. There was a young lady, her name was Chanel Rowe, and she had this roommate. She's a student at the University of Hartford, and she had this roommate. Chanel was getting sick out of nowhere. She experiencing these severe pains in her throat, and you know, she thought she was coming down with the flu. Well, turns out that her roommate, this nasty, stank white girl, Brianna Broche, 18-year-old Brianna, was basically poisoning her. You know, doing all kinds of nasty things, taking her used menstrual pad and wiping it on her book bag, and putting molded blue cheese dressing in her lotion, and licking on her utensils, and doing all kinds of nasty stuff to her toothbrush. And you know, Chanel went to the university after she found out. You know, because like I said, she thought she was just getting the flu or something. But come to find out, homegirl was doing this to her. This nasty white girl was like setting her up, man, poisoning her basically with her bodily fluids. And then when Chanel moved out, old Brianna gets on Snapchat and brags to everybody, I finally got rid of that roommate of mine, this, that, and the other. And the dorm mother came to her and showed her the video of Snapchat. So Brianna went to the university, and the university told Brianna if she said anything publicly, she'd get expelled. So finally, Chanel went to the police, you know, after the university ain't do nothing, and pressed charges. So now, as far as the police are concerned, it's not enough evidence to charge her with a hate crime. So they basically charging her with a misdemeanor. You know, she's being charged with mischief, criminal mischief, which is a misdemeanor. You know, this girl basically poisoned this young lady. You know, nasty self, her nasty self, just to get her to move out the room. You know, because she didn't like her. Basically, she ain't like her because she was black. You know, and she basically used her bodily fluids to poison this young lady. And they talking about there's no hate crime there, it's just criminal mischief. But that just goes to show how they cape for one another. You know, there was this brother just recently was arrested over the weekend for shooting a state trooper. And don't you know his picture's plastered all over the place, his record is out there, you can read the account and everything about this young man, who he is, you know. And this is not the cape for him and say, you know, defend him for what he did. Murder is murder. But I'm just noticing how the day after they caught this brother, his face is all over the place. And I still haven't seen a picture of this crazy white dude that went in there and shot up the people in that church. You know, how long did it take for them to get a picture of the man that killed all those people in Las Vegas? I'm just trying to get you to see the dichotomy and how they deal with the issues and the double standard that they have for everything, how they cape for each other. And this is what's happening with this young lady, Brianna, how they caping for her. Instead of calling it what it is, a hate crime, attempted murder, a hate crime, you know, because you could basically kill somebody with your bodily fluids. For those of you who don't know. You know, your bodily fluids, what you secrete out your body is basically poison. That's the stuff that your body is saying to your cells, get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. Either I've gathered all the nutrients out of it, or this is toxic. It needs to leave. So when you sit down on the toilet, or you stand over the toilet, or you sneeze, you snort, you snot, or spit, you're basically getting rid of all the things in your body that's not needed, that can eventually build up toxins in your body and kill you. So your bodily fluids are basically poison. All right, and that's basically what this girl did. You know, I studied for years under Grandmaster Washington, and he would tell us some of the stories of what he endured in Vietnam, and how, you know, how the enemy would improvise. You know, they didn't have laboratories to develop these toxins, so they basically used their bodily fluids. Most of these traps that you can talk to anybody that lived through some of this stuff, how they set these traps with wooden spikes and different apparatus. And what they would do, they would basically lace them with bodily fluids. You know, so that when, let's say if it was a foot trap and you stepped in a trap and your leg got spiked and it had some feces on it, that spike, that feces would enter the wound, infect the wound, and you can die of dysentery. So yeah, your bodily fluids are basically poisonous fluids. And that's basically what this girl did. But they still caping for her and try to make it like, it was no big deal. It was just criminal mischief. You know, when she could have killed this girl. You know, how many of you guys did the Petri dish test in high school where your science teacher would have you cough into or sneeze into a Petri dish, put it on the windowsill, cover it up, and then a few days later you see the little microorganisms growing in that dish? You know, that lets you know what's going on in the human body. The human mouth is more nastier than a dog's mouth. There are more germs in your mouth than there are in a dog's behind. All right? So that lets you know, that should tell you how dangerous it is for somebody, hey Kia, how you doing? For somebody to use their bodily fluids against you. And this girl, Brianna, was doing this for weeks. They said the young lady developed some sore throats. She developed flu-like symptoms until she went to the doctor and to see what was going on. And again, come to find out that this white girl, Brianna, was poisoning her, using her menstrual pads, wiping her menstrual blood on her book bag, and all kinds of nasty stuff, man. And they're going to talk about it wasn't a hate crime, it's criminal mischief. That chick should have went to jail, you know. She should have went to jail, and she should be in jail for attempted murder, you know. Okay. Also, In the news, after 37 years, Robert Mugabe has been ousted in Zimbabwe. A very controversial leader. He took a very strong stance against homosexuality in his country. A lot of people, depends on who you speak to. Some say he was an angel. Some say he was a devil. I just like the fact that the brother wanted Zimbabwe for the African people. I like the fact that he took a stand against the white people trying to take over that country. I understand there was a lot of corruption in his administration. I think he was trying to move out the vice president and put his wife in there. So it depends on who you talk to. Kia say he was a monster. It could be, Like I said, I just like the fact that he was trying to make Zimbabwe for Africans, and but it's over. 37 years of his dictatorship has come to an end. Last week, the military moved in, put him under house arrest, and he finally resigned last week. He wrote a letter to the Zimbabwe people saying that his days are numbered, so he must know that they're going to try him and kill him. And he was saying that they're going to miss him when he's gone. He basically wanted to, give that land, and that part I agree. True freedom, for any people come in ownership of your land, and that's one of the problems that we have. Hey Abe, how you doing? We don't own nothing in this country, and very few of us own our own homes, and of those people that own our own homes, they're really owned by the bank. We're paying mortgages to the bank, and if we miss too many payments, that land is gone, As in Adams, we own a lot of land. That's one thing my grandfather and grandmother did. We own so much land down south. It's like we own the size of Brooklyn. That's how much land we have down there. And one thing they put on paper is that we can't compromise ownership of that land. That the land, if we do any type of deals, if we do any type of leasing or selling, it can only be transactions from one Adams to the next. That Adams has to always own the land, and that's one thing I agree with Mugabe about. He wrote in his letter that his dream was to just have a free country, and true freedom meant ownership of the land that you live on, and I kind of agree with that. I'm not arguing the politics of or the corruption of him or anything. What I am saying is that we need to adopt that mentality of ownership. We can say we're free, and which to me is a non sequitur. I don't believe in that word. I believe that word is a fallacy. It's a farce. I don't really believe that you can truly be free. I think that the real word that should be substituted there should be responsibility. But again, that's just me. But I do believe that in order for us to have any type of ownership over our own destiny, we have to own our own stuff. We got to have our own businesses. We got to have our own land. We got to have our own governing systems, our own political system, and our own economic system. So, but the brother's gone. Zimbabwe is heading on a new track. Who knows where it's gonna go? Who knows who's the hand behind the hand? Because y'all know, anytime something goes on in that country, if you dig deep enough, there's gonna be a white hand pulling the strings. So I just hope those people don't regress, out of greed, trying to get a quick dollar and sell the rights to their land to somebody that don't mean them any good. Okay. I read another story speaking of Africa, Manute Bol. Some of you older heads might remember Manute. Manute was a basketball player back in the 80s. Very, very tall brother. I think he was the tallest man in the NBA at that time. And he led the NBA from 1986 to 1987. Manute Bol, after he was a Muslim, and after his NBA career, he went back to his country and basically spent his fortune trying to help the people of his country. He put his money where his mouth was, But I brought him up because I read somewhere that when he was playing in the NBA, he was actually in his 40s and 50s. And that just astounded me, But, most, they say the door opens for NBA players at 19, and it begins to close at around 35. This dude was like 45, 50 years old going up against a young Patrick Ewing and Mutombo and these dudes, man. That's astounding to me. But that just lets you know how great that melanin is, man. This is a brother from Africa. He was a Muslim. And it's a shame because Manute, I understand he died in poverty. I remember watching a special that they did on him. And because he was Muslim, he was treated very badly in his own country. And it really hurt my heart to hear his story, how they treated him. And he was talking in the documentary and how, he was like, I came back to help them. They literally beat this brother up. He was walking through the marketplace one day, and they just attacked him because he was a Muslim. And he was like, it just hurts me that I came back to help them, and they're attacking me, And I understand that he basically died bankrupt, from spending his fortune, all the millions he made in the NBA. Instead of going to a Caribbean island somewhere and chilling for the rest of his life, he used that money to try to help the very people that hated him. So big up to Manute Bol. I want to just bring that story out. It just astounded me that, you remember how strong Patrick Ewing and them dudes were. That was when the NBA was the NBA. You had to come correct. And this dude was 50 years old, throwing down with them young bloods, man. Much respect to Manute Bol and all that he did. Okay, finally in the news, Usher. Y'all remember Usher? My man. He was brought up in a lawsuit. This chick, Lauren Hilliam, I think her name was. He ain't gonna be paying you, whatever your last name is, heifer. Come to find out, she was busted on tape, talking to our publicist, admitting on tape that she never had unprotected sex with Usher. So there was no way, and I kind of knew that story was kind of bogus, even though my man's still under the gun, he's still under the knife. There's still some lawsuits out there from 2 other women and a man, from what I understand, claiming that he had, unprotected relations with them. So, but this $120 million lawsuit from this Lorna chick, it ain't going to fly. Her lawyer processed some papers asking that the lawsuit be dismissed without prejudice, and the judge granted that motion. So our brother Usher has dodged 1 bullet, but he's got 3 more flying at him. I don't know how that's going to play out for him. But that just goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, and I understand this, from being in the business. A lot of people want to be around the limelight, and they want to be in things, and they don't really take the time to look at what's happening, and who they're dealing with. I don't care how many records you sold or how many movies you did or how many TV shows you're on. You're human, and you have to treat people with humanity and with respect, and that goes for everybody. You look at what's going on now with all these sex scandals going on and people being called out years later, that stuff comes back to haunt you, it comes back to haunt you. And I mean, it's like every day, something else is coming out. And last week I understand Russell Simmons was charged. Somebody said Russell Simmons touched him. I think Mariah Carey was a dancer, said that she came on to him inappropriately. So it affects us all in all different walks of life. And like I said last week, I'm not one of those people that be saying, when you say Black Lives Matter, you don't stand and say, well, all and that the main people that are affected by these horrific crimes and allegations are women. Sexual harassment is a crime that affects everyone, but the ones that are mostly affected by these predators are women. But that doesn't mean that men aren't and little boys aren't affected as well. And if you have been molested and you feel that somebody took advantage of you at any time, I encourage you to step up and speak out, because you see what's happening now. 40 years later, these women are coming forward and talking about he touched them or whatever, and there's no proof. And this man not only might he get away with doing something inappropriate, but he might be elected to the Senate. So you should never feel, that you got to keep something like this hidden. The shame isn't on you. The shame is on the creep that put you in that position, that touched you or said something or did something inappropriate to you. It's not your shame. So never feel ashamed. And if you're in a position where you be like, well, if I say something, I might lose my job. No, you do my job better saying something, because the lawsuit might put you in a position where you might never have to work again in your life. So, don't hold that stuff in, man. It affects you. You might think you're suppressing it and you can get over it. No, it always comes back up to the surface. It comes back in your mood. Some people suffer from depression from it. It comes back how you deal with other people. Some people abuse their children physically and psychologically because of the guilt and the shame that they feel in what somebody else did to them. It affects your relationships. Some women can't what they're feeling and they never face. So don't suppress that stuff. Again, the shame isn't yours. You're not the problem. It's the creep that's the problem. It just goes to show how pervasive it is in our society. It's like every week somebody new. Every single week. Before Bill Clinton was the joke. And then they went after Bill Cosby, went after Bill Cosby hard. Now it's like you can't say, well, it's a Democratic problem, it's a Republican problem, it's this, black, white, Chinese. It's like people are coming from all over the world with this problem. It's ingrained in our society, and we really need to get a handle on it. And look at it for what it is. All right, so now we're going to get into our main topic, what I want to talk to you guys about today. Tradition versus the truth. Tradition versus the truth, all right? And I talked about this before, how we can say something or do something over and over again until it overrides the truth, and especially us as a culture, we really need to be careful of the traditions that we follow and really teach the truth to our children and to our families, because, and I'm putting this out there, but I really hope that you guys do your own research, because I don't like to debate people. If anybody read my post on the Facebook or see me in a discussion, I'll put something out there, and if somebody asks me to prove it, my answer to you is do your own research. Because I can tell you something, and I can give you fact, I can give you the chapter and verse, but trying to convince another individual of something that they haven't experienced is a futile task. And I don't really engage in that anymore because it's not something that is productive for my spirit, at least. So the stuff that I put out there for you, I ask that you do the research and look it up for yourself. When and everybody know what I'm talking about. We just went through the whole Turkey Day celebration, Thanksgiving, and all that. But then you got to ask the question: thankful for who and for what? From the Native American perspective, from our perspective, are we thankful? That the Pilgrims came, as Malcolm X said, the Plymouth Rock. You didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And we've got to look at hey, Harvey, how you doing, bro? We've got to look at the tradition versus the truth. We get caught up in the tradition. Like I said, things in our ear over and over again from the time that we're a child up until adulthood, and we hear these things over and over again, and it becomes truth to us. But when you look at tradition versus truth, traditions a lot of times have no bearing in truth whatsoever. When you look at the truth of Christopher Columbus, this dude was a murderer. He murdered thousands. He murdered more people in more grotesque ways than Adolf Hitler did. Yet we have a celebration of his birth. We have a celebration of him finding America. Tradition versus truth. What's the truth of it? All right? Did he discover something that was already here and people already inhabited? I always talk about the Olmec people. We was here long before Christopher Columbus knew how to wash his behind. And that's the truth versus tradition. All right? So when you and this is not to say that I don't like turkey. We had a great feast here. No doubt about it. I cooked me some sweet potato pies and the whole nine. But I'd be damned if I'm going to sit around the table and tell my young kids that this is a celebration of the Pilgrims coming to America. No, this is a celebration of family. This is a celebration of who we are. This is a celebration of the fact that our ancestors were caught up in the triangular slave trade, and by all rights and meaning, we should all be dead, but we're still here. And not only are we still here, but are also in an environment that don't care for us, don't have justice for us, all right, that don't respect us. All right, that's what our celebration is about. But to promote this tradition of the Pilgrims and the camaraderie that they had with the Native American, no, that's a bunch of garbage, man. And we need to stop feeding those lies to our kids. All right, tradition versus truth. Next month, a lot of you guys are gonna put up your Christmas trees, and you're going to be celebrating the birth of Jesus. Come on now. All right? Tradition versus truth. The truth is Christmas ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus Christ. All right? December 25th, and again, I'm putting it out there. Do the research and see if I'm lying to you. December 25th was the birth of Nimrod. Nimrod was one of the sons of Adam. All right, and it was predicted by his followers that he will be reborn. Nimrod was a great warrior. He was a great king in the lineage of Adam. He had subjugated the entire planet. This is biblical and historical record. All right, Nimrod was so great that his subjects viewed him as a god. They felt that he was so great that when he died, he would be resurrected. He would be resurrected, and his rebirth would be out of the morning sun, the North Star. All right, this is why you guys have that star at the head of your tree, at the top of your tree. That's what that symbolizes. All right, Christmas is rooted and paganism. So if you are a Christian and you are honoring the birth of Nimrod, talking about it's the birth of Jesus Christ, you're actually committing sacrilege. All right, to be honest with you. Again, tradition versus truth. And I know it steps on a lot of toes, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but this is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Do the research. Do the research. And I'm not talking about just YouTube. You can YouTube it. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, we are in a new age. But go to the library, pull out some books, and do some research, and you'll find what I'm saying is true. All right? Spring's going to come. How many of y'all going to have your Easter bonnets on? And buying your kids Easter eggs. All right? Come on, use common sense. Where in the Bible has an Easter bunny been a symbol of religion? Once again, it's tradition versus truth. I got into this discussion last year with this woman. But that's not what it's about. It's about Jesus Christ being born and rising again. No, it ain't got nothing to do with Jesus Christ. And this is the part that people don't understand. This is the game that governments play on people. When they want to put something over on you, they let you keep part of your tradition. And this was what was done in Roman times. Okay? When Rome conquered the pagans, they allowed them to keep certain parts of their traditions and interwoven with the laws of the Roman Catholic Church. All right, and as time went on, it became tradition, which has nothing to do with truth. Now, we need to really re-examine some of these traditions. Halloween. Oh, she looks so cute in her look at her little angel outfit. Oh, he looks so cute in this little Incredible Hulk outfit. Meanwhile, Halloween is nothing but devil worship. That's exactly what it is. It was a tradition of dressing up in these costumes so that the evil spirits would get fooled by you and you appease the devil and leave you alone. Basically, that's basically what Halloween is about. So you got your kids running around here worshiping the devil for candy and calling it a great holiday. Tradition versus the truth. And we need some truth, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I know I'm stepping on a lot of toes by saying these things, but it's the truth. And we need some hard truth. There's nothing wrong with celebrating family. But don't lie to them about some birth of Jesus Christ. Celebrate them in Kwanzaa. We don't celebrate no Christmas. We celebrate Kwanzaa. Yeah, it's man-made. It's a man-made tradition. But it's something that we made with understanding of bringing the family together. Leave that Easter stuff alone. Leave that, you want to come together on Thanksgiving? Come together on Thanksgiving, but give thanks for the family. Teach the truth about the Pilgrims. Teach the truth about Columbus. Teach the truth about the slaughter and the genocide of the Indian and the slave and the rape of our ancestral culture. All right? Tradition versus the truth. And people say, oh, it don't matter. It's just a little fun. Yeah, it's a little fun until we're on the outside looking in. The tradition is when you turn on your TV and you look at stories about Egypt and Cleopatra and the great kings of Egypt, what color are they? The greatest Egyptian ever known is Elizabeth Taylor. Why? Why? Because we got away from the truth and we followed tradition. They'll tell you today that who you are don't matter. It don't matter that they stole our legacy. All right? You want to talk about Black History Month? Black history is the Bible. You want Black history? You want to trace our lineage all the way back to as far as we can go? You're going to go back to Adam. Adam was a black man. Noah was an albino. He was born an albino. That's why he stood out so much. But he was still black. His lineage was a black man. And Jesus Christ is from that lineage. Jesus is from the lineage of Noah. He's from the lineage of Adam. He's from the lineage of the people of Israel. He's from the 7 tribes. And those people were black as night. But yet when you see them on TV, you see them on the story that Charlton Heston played, they're a bunch of white people. You just as a bunch of white people. The only time you see a black Egyptian is when he's a slave. That's the tradition. But the truth is that the real people are black as night. We are the original people. This is why it matters. This is why we can't get caught up in the fantasy and get away from the truth of things. Because when we get away from the truth of things, you get people over in Israel inviting people from Ethiopia over saying, oh, we're all Jews until they get there and they steal everything they got and then treat them like outcasts. Knowing that there's no letter J in the Hebrew alphabet. Tradition versus truth. We need to get back to the truth. We need to get back to the truth with ourselves, and we need to get back to the truth with our families, and we definitely need to get back to the truth with our children. Give our children the truth that they deserve. Stop teaching this nonsense that they've been feeding us for years. I was in my junior year of college before I started realizing some of the things that they were teaching were wrong. It wasn't until I got around Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and these other professors that turned my head, flipped my wig around, said, no, man, that bull crap they've been teaching in these school systems is wrong. Got your kids, you remember back in the day when you traced out the turkey and in your hand and brought it home, you were so proud, hung it on the refrigerator. You could tell the story of the Pilgrims and how they brought civilization. Come on, man. Europe was some of the most uncivilized people on the planet. That's why the plague ravaged Europe, because they were dirty, funky people, man. This is fact. Look it up. They didn't have toilet and running water like we had in Africa. When the Moors came and told them, y'all getting sick because y'all stank and y'all funky. Instead of burying your feces, you're throwing it out the window screaming La Luge. That's fact. Look it up. Whenever you was walking down the street in Europe and you heard somebody yell La Luge, you better look up and run because they're about to dump their stank pot on you. And that's why them rats contracted the fleas that had all the diseases, and the plague ran rapid in Europe. And they were in the Dark Ages until the Moors, our people, came running up in there and showed them who they were and showed them how to reclaim their civilizations. So, get real with it, ladies and gentlemen. Fact versus tradition. Look at all these traditions for what they are, what they truly are, and stop getting caught up in the emotions of things and start dealing with things logically. Look at the logic of what you're doing. If it don't make sense, 9 times out of 10, it's a bunch of mind-bending, and that's the truth of the matter. Fact versus tradition. Tradition versus fact. And it's all centered around the emotions. And in the late 80s, when George Bush invaded Iran, they ran that it's a new warfare, they said. It's the war of hearts and minds. Ain't nothing new about that. It was a perfected system. It took years to perfect it. And they've been practicing it on us. They perfected it on us by claiming the hearts and minds of the individual. All right? And the whole situation, this whole thing about these traditions, all right, that's what the new warfare is, getting us caught up emotionally. Oh, we don't want to disappoint the children. The children got to have their presents under the tree. Oh, they want to dress in their little costumes, so I'm not going to deny little Joey his costume. Oh, we got to have the turkey. If we don't have the turkey, it's not going to be Thanksgiving. I can't be thankful without sweet potato pie. All right? Don't get caught up in the emotion. Look at the truth. Look at the truth of what they're putting down on us. Don't get caught up in the lies. And again, don't take my word for it. Do some research. Find out where I mean, anybody and everybody know what that whole pilgrim situation is about. You ain't got to do much research on that. But do some research on your people. Find out who was in these Americas before Christopher Columbus. Find out the fact that we were here long before slavery. We were down in these parts long before we were brought here as slaves. All right, but do some research on Easter. Find out what that holiday is really about. Do some research on Christmas. Find out what that whole lie they telling you about some birth of Jesus Christ is about. Do some real research. Don't get caught up in your feelings. Don't get caught up in the emotions of it. But do some cold, systematic, fact-finding research. And you will see that a lot of these traditions that they got us following come out of paganism, they come out of devil worship, and just a straight-up snow job on the people that they trying to run. All right? Listen, I'm about to get out of here. But before I do, we want to give some birthday shout-outs. We want to give some birthday shout-outs to Tom Joyner. Tom Joyner had a birthday on November 23rd. A lot of you guys grew up with Tom. I know I did. He was a great DJ here in New York City. So we want to give a shout-out to Tom Joyner. Earl of Pearl Monroe, great basketball player from the New York Knicks, from that championship team. He had a birthday the 21st. And Ken Griffey Jr., Earl of Pearl's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Ken Griffey Jr. also is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. We want to give a shout out to them. And shout out to my man Rodney Kendricks. He let us know last Sunday his mother-in-law, Diana Ross, received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Music Awards. I want to send a shout out to Diana Ross. She's been in the business for a long time, and much respect to her. Well-deserved award, and congratulations to her. Our unsung hero of this week is our sister, Della Reese. We lost Della last week. She was 86 years old. Some of you guys might remember her from the movie Harlem Nights with Eddie Murphy, when he brought all of the old-time the OGs together, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Della, a lot of the old great comedians and actors, and Della was she was the lady that ran the brothel, and Eddie Murphy shot a pinky toe off after she beat him up. But shout out to Della Reese and her family. She was 86 years old, and she passed last week. She also did a TV show called Touched by an Angel. She was a great singer, great actress, and we're going to miss her. We're going to miss her voice. I was watching a clip of her just a minute ago of how she was talking about how Red Fox died, and man, he was. She said there was always an underlying current of racism between him and one of the producers, and she said that Entertainment Tonight came by the set to interview Red, and while he was in the interview, they were rehearsing a scene from the TV show which needed Red in it, but he didn't have any lines, so they basically had a stand-in doing his part. And the producer got all uppity, said if Red's supposed to be here, he should be. And Della was like, but he doesn't have any speaking lines. And hello, Anna. How you doing? And my boy Kurt. How you doing, Kurt? You guys out here late. I'm about wrapping it up, but you can catch the rebroadcast. But anyway, what Della was saying was that the producer went in and interrupted the interview, pulled Red Fox out of the interview and demanded he come on set. And she said when Red found out that all it was just him walking by a chair, he was, that anybody could have done, she said Red got livid. and started, going off. And in the middle of that, he caught a heart attack and fell to the floor. And they thought he was joking. And Della, leaned over him and I'm good, Kirk. How you doing, bro? And he whispered to her, "Get my wife." And they rushed him to the emergency room, and they pronounced him dead. And she said, as they're standing there, the doctor comes out, tells Red Fox's wife that she just lost her husband. And as they're standing there, this same producer, who basically is the cause of the heart attack, is going to stand there and say, "Well, what are we going to do about the script? The script was written for Red and Della. We need to do something about the script." She said she lost it. She said she went off on everybody and just got in her car and drove away and never came back. But that just shows you the character of Della Reese, and many people of that era. We're gonna miss her. I remember her as being a very strong person that didn't take no mess. That character she played in Harlem Nights, and I believe that was a part of the person that she was. So again, our unsung hero for this week is Della Reese. Much love and respect to her family, and may she rest in peace. Okay, I'm about out of here. I see Arthur. Arthur, you came late, man. Show's over, man. What's wrong with you? Carla, all these people popping out now, and I'm getting ready to leave. But listen, catch the rebroadcast, y'all. I'm gonna have it reproduced and back on the YouTube channel. So make sure you get over to the YouTube channel and check it out. When you get over there, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends, hit the subscribe button. Because like I said, we want to get up off this Facebook platform. We want to get the radio station going. We want to get the 24-hour radio station going. We don't want any donations. We don't want your money. Because we know a lot of y'all still caught up in the tradition and not the truth. But that's another story. We know y'all get caught up in the tradition of Santa Claus, some fat white guy. You spending your last dollar and giving you credit to some fat white dude. but that's the story of our life. We create it, we make it, and some fat white man gets the credit. But listen, and stay away from them those stores. Y'all out there killing each other for TVs and deals. Black Friday, come on, man. Again, look, tradition versus truth. Look up that term Black Friday and see where it comes from. See what Black Friday is all about. Look up, Google Black Friday and Wall Street. See what Wall Street was all about. All right, I will do that, Kurt. He sometimes he come out and join me on this podcast. But listen, folks, I'm up out of here. I ain't with all that, pilgrims and stuff. But enjoy your family, enjoy the food. God bless you all. I love you all, and remember, don't get caught up in the lies that they telling you that you failed to prepare for the reality that is about to come. God bless you all. Peace out.
Oh.